Hey, muy buenas tardes, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, thank you, everyone, for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, your time, and the love and support you guys extend my way. From the heart, I appreciate every one of you. And before I get into the story on hand, do please help by supporting what helps the message or the channel. By liking, disliking, subscribing, sharing, how the message get out there. Gracias. Well, to get into what I'm going to talk about today. Como lo dicho es deuda. I mentioned to you guys that yesterday's video was a setup for today's censoring of what I've been asked a lot about, right? And it's about Turi, most of all, but mainly in regards to tigre, wino, playboy, and them that you know they're still trying to hold on and in the hopes of coming back, making things right, and be accepted back in the fold in good standings, right? Or as everyone knows it in GP, they're refusing to go to a PC yard or an SNY yard. And believe me, it has nothing to do with honor with them. A lot of people speak about fear, but that's what's keeping them from going that way, right? It's fear. When you sit down and analyze Billy's, these cats are ones of the most scandalous ones that literally abuse their power, and they hurt a lot of camaradas with no reason, right? Now, I'm not taking the finger off the rest, but in a nutshell, you speak about Wino everywhere he went, he knocked somebody down permanently. He had all one people whack just to handicap another Billy, right? For no reason but his jealousy. The same goes with well, Tigre. Well, he was even worse, right? He just took out a camarada just cause he wanted to prove he was in that pedestal of power and he could do it, right? But anyways, I want to get into the first individual. People would ask me, right from the moment he came back, I informed everybody that yeah, he was back. To what extent he was back, I didn't fully know. I still talk to, I'll just say camaradas, right? There's no need to put marcas where they're at, none of that, because, I don't want my message to reach in a negative way to anybody, right? But, I've been doing my homework, where he's at, how he's behaving, and basically the word behind him being there, right? And, a lot of people associate Tudy coming back from him whacking Tigre, but that's not the case. Because if we sit down and analyze the facts, they were never in the same compa together. They weren't able to touch each other. Because Tigre would have felt the same way and he would have attacked, right? Would have been Tudy, wine or whatever, Cuate. But it was just them incidents that tend to happen, right? That who does forget to lock a door, and Tudy seen an opportunity to rush into the other section and whack Tigre, right? The thing is, when it comes to, you know, throwing hands and in that aspect of being a soldado, always on that rutina, believe me, Tigre, Turi saw it, papitas, right, easy. And when he rushed up in there, he got a couple good ones, but so did Tigre. Tigre beat him down and got his money. You couldn't say with definition, oh, homeboy stabbed homeboy, or this dude stabbed Tudy. No, of course, Tudy got the right up because he ran in the other section, right? But what I want to talk about is how he was able to come back. As you guys know, Tudy's run was one of them scandalous ones, right? He took the page from Artie, from King Cobras. He did exactly what Artie was doing. He ignored Pelican Bay. He minimized them. Instead of doing what he was supposed to do in the sense of discipline, when somebody had a discipline coming for no apparent reason, he was clipping camaradas. But with the threats of, oh, I want to make sure, take your career and you're going to get whacked, just pay me $500. In other words, punking homies, right? Excuse me, I use that word, but what other word could be used? And time came when they clipped his wings. You know, a lot of people say it never got that far with Artie because he locked it up, right? But with Tudy, they clipped his wings. Ever since they did so, though, he never spoke to IGI. He never did none of that, right? Even though they took some personal people away from him on the calles, right? And they knocked down his whole personal crew. But, on a personal tip, I had them private conversations with Toro. So I know how much love Toro had for Tudy and how proud he was that that was his home way and he was a carnal, right? So that was an angle that was pushed besides Tudy's. And then as you guys know, Tudy is Native American, right? And for Tudy, Toro was able to infiltrate a lot of casinos. Family ties, you guys know all that go around. Anyways, that got pushed. And then, the Pilis in Pelican Bay, they decided to basically accept a collection, you know, or a payment. And then for him to get out there and program and see what stems from there. So Tudy felt it trustworthy because one of them is Chato, right, from Maravilla. As you guys know, Chato's been a pioneer of sealing deals when it comes to a lot of people fearing cats and clipping their wings, right? He has a lot of palabra in the clica, right? And tablas, well, definitely nowadays, right? So, anyways, for those that been on here and came out and said, oh, Turi came back in place, full force, with all his full territories and stuff. No, Turi came out like a camarada, stripped. He was one out of the bunch now. He has no right to hold any type of authority. He's just allowed to walk amongst camaradas. But he follows rules and regulation, and he's in the bottom of the barrel. Now, there's a different movement though, right? From personal disrespects Tudy did to other pilis. So I don't want to put it out there, and I'm not. But you guys know, that fear of Tudy going to SNY because of all the people he actually had whacked and removed and put on that side just because they couldn't afford to pay $500 for missing a gallo, or whatever, a bunk discipline that deserved workout, right? Discipline. He took, he put him on an SMY. So of course he fears he goes over there, he's gonna get butchered. But sin palabras, the word is they're treating him as a baby. If you guys get what I'm trying to say, what do you do to a baby when you trying to have him rest his head for the night? If you guys get it. But anyways, besides that, again, it's not for me to speak about it, right? The bottom line is to answer the question, yes, Turi's back amongst camaradas, but he's not even considered a sureño. He's a Southsider, and he owes it all to T from Cuca. And for the sum he paid Tablas and Chato. And for those all used to always hearing that 5, 10,000 bucks to come back, you're way off. He literally paid some good money. And as we speak, he's still walking amongst camaradas because he's able to produce avenues, two pilis that produce feria. But again, it's like give me, and get the hell on. Anyways, that's Tudy. Real fast so I don't make this long. About Tigre, there is no way, no how Tigre is ever gonna come back. He has the hopes that there's an opening where he could take someone out, or like they did with Tudy, Billy would actually stand at hand and help him come back, right? But there's no such thing for Tigre. Remember, he had a push against Billy's to have him whacked or put in disregard and shit list for no reason. And then you have those Pilis that were supporting him, like Tablas being one of the first one. That's not will never allow it, cause you know it's them saying if you have skeletons in your closet. He already did everything he could to make sure they weren't found out of, right? And then right now, Chato's one of the main ones. And remember who sealed the deal with Tigre going out but first, right? Which was Chato. Chato whacked him and had him put there. Now to end, I want to do an extend episode on the gravedas, right? Cause well, I got a personal experience that I think is a good message, right? When it comes to these individuals, but there's no coming back for any of them. And a lot of people associate They're going bad with Cuate. Cuate was the worst of the worst, period, point blank, right? He wasn't just pushing, he was acting. He was stabbing Pilis. Not to mention what he was doing to camaradas, right? And that got sealed. Wino himself, besides Cuate, he was a power hungry abuser. You know, from the time he was with me in Ironwood in 2000, in the hole, just in Ironwood alone, he had two camaradas killed. Just because they couldn't go back there and bring him dope, he smugged him up, flipped it around, and put smuggled them to the point where they got clipped. Everywhere he went, he did so. In that short stay in Ironwood Hole, he was up in war with Sapo from San Pedro and also the two other Pilis ASAP because he felt he had more antiquity and he knew best for them, man. His power hungry, abuse of power is what got him removed and everything came out to light he was doing. He was doing a lot of things towards Pilis behind the scenes, even to the point of making him look like trash. I'll just leave it like that. I don't want to make it long. Cirillo, well, there ain't not much to speak about Cirillo. He already passed, right? My respects. But again, Cirillo's doing was not only the promises he made regarding Cuate, but the things he did when he was out in Wilmas. You know, it's funny. I haven't spoken on it because I haven't seen nothing written on it. I don't know if it's out there like that. I haven't heard nobody speak about it. But he did a lot of wrong when it came to Sleepy, Raul, and others in the harbor area. Well, again, I don't know if it's out there, so I'll stand for speaking on it. The mother cats, they already crossed over. You know, a lot of people think they're still there in that program because they're refusing, but no. Playwiz and PC, they all went to that side already. Where to? You know, I disculpen. I don't know. But with this said, I hope I was able to answer the question on their standings. You know, keep an ear open for Turi. Like I said, they're babying him right now. You see, the one thing I gotta give props to these individuals is, you know, once they decide to put out there they abuse their power, they won't let it go. You know, we'll just leave it at that. And again, you know, a lot of people get on and always speak about, oh, I know him personally. They have them things between the legs, and no, they're scared. You don't think they hear the stories about S and Y and how they act and how they're really about it when it comes to poking, killing, all that wrong. They know it's gonna be there waiting for them. Them alone, I think, hurt more people than we could probably imagine when it comes to camaradas. I've covered the pioneer of hurting and that is boxer, right? But again, that's none of my business. But with this said, I'll let you guys rest. Do excuse. I don't know what's wrong with my headset, but I hope I'm able to make sense. I'll leave this with this message, you know. There's a lot of people that think are smart in prison, right? You go in, you do one thing on one yard, you do the next, and you think you're slick with it. It don't matter who you are. Do know whatever you do in one side, in one place, will follow you eventually. As on YouTube, you could come on here, change your name, hide your CDC, your real name, and act all this, and that, you know. But everything comes to light, you know. That's why I'm thankful. A lot of people that know me on a personal tip from the shoe yards come on my channel, on my lives, and they go, I remember you from Ironwood, from Corcoran, this and that. So, again, the reasons why I walked away, they're out there. Go listen to the part one and two on why I walked away. Please, you know, I never tapped out. I never weenied out. And like I always tell you, want to do homework, my placazo chino, Robert is K36147, Santa Rosa. And I know I don't have to do this. I've done it many times. But I just think it's funny how people just beat around the bush. Why don't you talk about the reality on how scandalous how llavero you were? You know what? The point and the message in this is, if you're gonna be in something, be as clear as water, derecha la flecha. Unfortunately, there is no more causa, so be smart. Stay true to what makes sense to you and loyal to family, that they're the ones always gonna be there. Hope you continue to have a great day. Sorry for the late upload.